Hi, and welcome to our video tutorial lessons at Gleaming Moon School, Omaha. This is Mrs. Edith Igwe. I am taking you through another series of a lesson. This is the second video in our series Standard Form, and this video is called SF01 Powers of 10. In this video, I'm going to teach you about powers of 10. We will learn what it means and how to write powers of 10. So I need you to have your book or your paper and your pen or your pencil. Pay attention and follow every instruction that I give you. Practice the things you learn over and over. Watch this video and complete the quiz. If you didn't get everything right, try it again over and over and over. And I tell you, as you continue to practice, you will become a master of mathematics. So you're welcome. Now, in this video, we are going to look at our objective in this video is to understand and interpret and write the powers of 10. And we're going to go through 4 different processes. For the first one, we will look at the base number and the power, ways of writing it, positive powers of 10, and then negative powers of 10. Right. Let's say we have 10 raised to the power of 3. What does it mean? Now we know this number here, this 10, is called the base number. Okay, so this 10 is called the base number. And this 3, this tiny 3 here, so I'm going to circle this 3 for you. Okay, this 3 is what we call the power. You can also call it the exponent, or you can call it the index. All these 3 words mean the same thing, okay? So you can call it the power, or the exponent, or the index. Now, another thing we need to know about the power is this. The power, I'm going to have to write in small letters now. So the power tells you how many times to multiply the base number. So the power does a very important job here. It tells us how many times this base number 10, how many times do we multiply it by itself. Okay, that is what the power tells us. Now, another important information we need to have about the power is that the power can be positive or can be negative. Okay, so we need to bear this information in mind. So I'll ask you in your book to pause this video, copy down this key information, the base number and the power. You write 10 raised to the power of 3. 10 is the base number. 3 is the power or the exponent or the index. And 3 tells us how many times we multiply the base number by itself. And that 3 can be a positive 3, like in this case, or a negative 3. Okay, so the next part is ways of writing the power. Okay, now when we write the power, there are 3 ways that we write it. The first one is by using superscript. So in superscript, you have 10 raised to the power of 3. So this number 3 is what we call the superscript. The fact that it is written a very tiny number at the top of 10 there, that makes it superscript. Another way we write it is by using this symbol, okay? This symbol here that looks like a V that is written upside down. is another way of writing power. So for example, as we have 10 raised to the power of 3, using this symbol, we will have something like this. You have 10 symbol 3. It means exactly the same thing as 10 raised to the power of 3. And then the other way I'm going to show you that is written, we find this mostly in the calculator. It uses the E symbol. Okay. When you type in a very, very large number in your calculator, sometimes you get a number with an E. So for example, if we have something like this, 6E plus 5. Have you ever seen that kind of thing in your calculator? Have you ever tried calculating a very large number and it ends up bringing this up for you? It is telling you something. This actually is a form of standard form. Yes, it has power of 10. The part that is the power of 10 is this part, E plus 5. That's the part that is power of 10. But let's find out what 6E plus 5 means. Okay, 6E plus 5 means 6 times 10 raised to the power of 5. So you can see that this part, E plus 5, is exactly the same thing as this part times 10 raised to the power of 5. So you can see your power of 10 here, 10 raised to the power of 5. So this 6 still refers to this 6. Okay, so we have 6 and then E plus 5 meaning times 10 raised to the power of 5. Okay, so these are the 3 ways that we write powers. Okay, now let's move on to the positive powers of 10. So let's say you have 10 raised to the power of 3. What does it mean? Now I want you to go back to the note that you wrote earlier when we looked at the base number and the power. You can find that the base number is 10, okay, and the power is 3. So what is the power 3 telling us? It's telling us how many times we multiply this 10 by itself. So we have 10, because the power says 3, we're going to multiply 10 by itself 3 times. So we have 10 times 10, that's 2, times another 10, which means 3 tens are there. And that would give us 1,000. Okay. Now here's another one. We have 10 raised to the power of 1. So how many times are we going to multiply the base by itself? What does the power say? The power says 1. So that means we just have 110, just 10. And that's your answer for that one. Here's another one, 10 raised to the power of 2. Again, the power says 2. So that means we're going to have 2 tens multiplying each other. And that would give us 10 times 10. And 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, so now this leads us to a general rule. Okay, so what would this general rule be? Have a look at these numbers we have here. There is one thing that is constant there, the number 1. Okay, so in our general rule, we will say you start from 1 and multiply it by the base in a repeated multiplication. So that's the general rule. Start from 1 times base in repeated multiplication. Okay, now remember that this repeated multiplication, okay, will be determined by the power. It will be determined by the power. So what the power says will determine how many repeated multiplication that we will have. Okay, so let's have a look at these two numbers. We have 10 raised to the power of 4, and then we have 2 raised to the power of 3. And one thing I want you to bear in mind is that this general rule applies to any power. It's not just the powers of 10. That is why I have 2 raised to the power of 3 here. So you can also see how that works on other numbers apart from 10. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to pause the video. Okay, looking at the examples I've given you above with 10 raised to the power of 3, 10 raised to the power of 1, and 10 raised to the power of 2. And the general rule which says you start from 1 and multiply it by the base in repeated multiplication. And the repeated multiplication is determined by the number of the power. So I want you to pause the video, have a go at these two numbers, see if you can work them out. Okay, now let's have a look. So if we have 10 raised to the power of 4, we are starting from 1, and then we multiply it by the base in repeated multiplication according to what the power says. What does the power here say? The power says 4. So that means we're going to have a repeated multiplication of 10 4 times. So we have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Can you see that? So we have 4 tens here. Okay, and if we have 4 tens, what is that going to give us? So 1 times 10 already is 10. Okay, so 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000, and 1,000 times 10 will give us what? 10,000. So your answer is 10,000. Okay, now let's have a look at this one. So this is 2 raised to the power of 3. So we are starting from 1 and multiply. Repeated multiplication of the base. What is the base in this number now? The base is 2. Okay, and what does the power say? The power says 3. So the repeated multiplication is going to be 2 times itself 3 times. So we have 2 times 2 times 2. So can you see 2 is multiplying itself 3 times? And what would that give us? So 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 times 1 is going to give you what? 8. Okay? Right. Now, let's have some more things. I want you, now we have looked at this, I want you to think. Okay? We have said we start from 1 and we multiply by the base in a repeated multiplication, and the power tells us how many repeated multiplications that we will do. Now, if you have 10 raised to the power of 0, what would it be? I want you to pause the video again. Think about this. Have a look at the notes that you've written. What do you think will be the answer to this one? Okay, let's see. So we are starting from 1, okay? And it says repeated multiplication times the base in repeated multiplication. What is the base there? The base is 10. And how many repeated multiplication did he say? 0. So that means nothing. Okay, so I'm going to clean off that times because there is nothing to times 1 by. And that brings your answer as 1. And this is a fact that any number raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1, because you will always start from 1. And because the power says 0, you are not multiplying it by anything. So it remains 1. I want you to always bear that in mind. Make sure you copy this down because this is a very important information. Now I have a little practice for you. We have 10 raised to power 7, 10 raised to power 6, and 10 raised to power 5. I'm going to ask you to work that out. Pause the video again, work this out, and then play and check what you've done. Okay, so let's have a look. We have 10 raised to the power of 7. We start from 1. The power says 7, so that means the repeated multiplication of the base is going to be 7 times. So we have 10 1 times 10 2 times 10 3 times 10 4 times 10 5 times 10 6 times 10 7. Okay, So can you see we have how many tens there? 7 times multiplying itself. So what is that going to give us? So let's see what our answer is going to be. So how many zeros have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. So you simply write 1 and add on 7 zeros. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in order to know what number we have, we count 3 backwards every time and separate them with 0. We take comma. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then comma. 1, 2, 3, and then comma. Can you see the number we have? We have 10 million. So 10 raised to the power of 7 is equal to 10 million. Now let's have a look at the next one. 10 raised to the power of 6. Again, we start by 1 and multiply by 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So you can see that the base number is 10 and the power is 6. So we are doing a repeated multiplication of 10 6 times. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tens. And that will give us equal to 1. And we add how many zeros? 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you count backwards in threes and put your commas. 1, 2, 3, comma. 1, 2, 3, comma. So you can see that is 1 million. So 10 raised to the power of 6 will give us 1 million. Now the final one here, 10 raised to the power of 5. Again, we start from 1 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. How many tens have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would give us, again, we would write 1 and put 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we count 3 zeros backwards, putting our commas. 1, 2, 3, comma. So you can see 10 raised to the power of 5 will give us 100,000. Okay. So check it with what you did previously and see whether you got it right. Now there is something, let's move on now to the negative power of 10. So we have looked at the positive power of 10. We're going to do a comparison between the positive and the negative. We looked at the positive power of 10 and we came out with a general rule. Start from 1, multiply it by the base in repeated multiplication. Okay. Now, speaking of negative, what is the opposite of positive? That's right, it is negative. The opposite of positive is negative. So if the opposite of positive is negative, and in positive we start from 1 and multiply it by the base, what would we do in the negative starting from 1? Exactly. In the positive, we have times. So that means in the negative, we are going to have the opposite of times. And what is the opposite of times? Divide. So in the negative, we will start from 1 and divide the base and divide it by the base. Okay, so in positive, we start from 1 and multiply by the base. But in negative, we start from 1 and divide by the base. Now let's see some examples. For the positive, if we have 10 raised to the power of 2, we start from 1, right? And multiply it by the base. And the repeated multiplication is what? 2, because the power says 2. So we multiply by 10 2 times. So we have 1 times 10 times 10. And that's going to give us 10 times 10 is 100. So that would give us 1 times 100. And 1 times 100 will give us what? 100. Now for the negative, we have 10 raised to the power of minus 2. So you can see in the positive one, the power is a positive 2, whereas in the negative one, the power is a negative 2. So because it's negative, we're going to do the opposite of 1 times 10. So we're going to do 1 divide by 10 times 10. And what is 10 times 10? 10 times 10 is 100. So we have 1 divided by 100. Now, how do we work out 1 divided by 100? Let's use our division method. So we have 1 divided by 100. So let's see what we have. So we have 1 here, and we are dividing it by what? You have to forgive my handwriting here. Okay, so we are dividing it by 100. Can 100 divide 1? Absolutely not. So we do what? We write 0. Put a decimal point here, and then we add 0 to this one, making it what? 10. Still, can 100 divide this 10? No, 100 is still more than 10. So we put 0 on top here, and then add 0 to this 10, making it what? 100. So now, can 100 divide 100? Absolutely yes. So 100 divides 100 how many times? Once. So we write 1. So you can see that our answer is 0.01. Okay, so 1 divided by 100 is going to give you what? 0.01. So you can see it is less than 1. So notice that for the positive power, you start from 1 and add on the zeros. But in the negative power, you start with 0 and the 1 comes last. But you put your decimal point after the first 0. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you to pause the video again, looking at what we did previously. If you didn't copy that down, you can rewind the video now so that you can copy down the example I just showed you of the positive and the negative. Okay, and I will show you how we can do this one. All right, so we have 10 raised to the power of minus 3. Okay, so what do? We start from 1 and we divide it by the base in multiple multiplication, in repeated multiplication. And how many repeated multiplication do we need? The power says 3, so we need 3. Therefore, we will have 1 divided by 10 times 10 times 10, 3 10s here. And that would give us 1 divided by 1000. And if we go by our long division again, you will find that 1 divided by 1000 will be 0.001. Okay, and then this one is 10 raised to the power of minus 1. So minus 1 means because it's 1, the repeated multiplication will just be 1. So we're going to have just 1 10. But we start from 1 and divide it by 10. So we have 1 divided by 10. And that would give you 0.1. A very important question. Did you notice anything about the zeros? I explained it as we went on. I want you to think about it. What did you notice? Now, let's look at them. For the positive, we have 10 raised to the power of 2, 10 raised to the power of 7, and 10 raised to the power of 10. And for the negative, we have 10 raised to the power of minus 2, 10 raised to the power of minus 7, and 10 raised to the power of minus 10. So what did you notice? Pause the video, write out the positive in decimal notation, write out the negative in decimal notation, and compare the numbers. What do you notice about the position of the zeros? Which ones have decimal points in them? Which ones are greater than 1? Which ones are the bigger numbers? Which ones are less than 1, which is the smaller numbers? Pause the video and have a go. Okay, now let's look at it. 10 raised to the power of 2. We start from 1. What does the power say about 2? It says there are 2 10s, so that means we add 2 zeros. 1, 2. And remember, this means 1 times 10 times 10. Don't forget that. It's very important. What I'm showing you is a trick of how you can quickly do it, but always remember what it means. 10 raised to the power of 2, you start from 1, multiply by 10 2 times. Okay, and remember, in the positive, a simple and tricky way of writing it is just start from 1, add the number of zeros according to what the power says. So in this first one, the power says 2. We write 1 and add 2 zeros. So in the second one, okay, let's jump to the negative. So for 10 raised to the power of minus 2. So in 10 raised to the power of 2, the positive, we wrote 1 and added 2 zeros. But in the minus, in the negative, you start from 0. Okay, so if you start from 0, that means you will write 0 and put your decimal point. Remember, your decimal point will always come after the first 0. Okay, how many more zeros do we need? In total, we need 2 zeros, and we've got 1 already, so we need 1 more 0, and then we write 1. Now notice the difference. The 1 comes last in the negative, whereas the 1 comes first in the positive. So in the positive, you start with 1 and add on the zeros. In the negative, you start with the zeros and end with the 1. So for 10 raised to the power of 7, you have 1, and then you add 7 zeros. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now remember to put your commas by counting 3 zeros backwards. 1, 2, 3, comma. 1, 2, 3, comma. Okay, and then 10 raised to the power of 10. Start from 1 and add 10 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then count 3 backwards. 1, 2, 3, comma. 1, 2, 3, comma. 1, 2, 3, comma. Can you see that? We have 10 billion. Okay, so this first one, 10 raised to the power of 7 is 10 million, and 10 raised to the power of 10 is 10 billion. Okay, and then for the negative one, we have minus 7, so we start with 7 zeros. That's your number 1 0, decimal point, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you put 1. Okay, and then for 10 raised to the power of minus 10, start with your first 0, decimal point, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then you put your 1 there. Okay, so you can see how standard form makes it all easier and concise. Imagine this number here. Imagine this number here where we have 10 billion. Okay, instead of writing all these zeros, we just write 10 raised to the power of 10. Okay. Now I've got some work for you to do. These are your exercises, your classwork. So with all the examples that I've shown you, with all the pausing of the video and practicing that you have done, now here is an exercise for you to do. So pause the video. In your book, this is your first classwork. Write these numbers in decimal notation. Remember the key information that we have said. The base number, you start from 1, multiply by the base number in repeated multiplication, and the power tells you how many times to do the repeated multiplication. Okay. All right, let's look at the answers. 10 raised to the power of 5 is equal to 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. That's into 5 places, which is 100,000. 10 raised to the power of 0 is just 1. Remember, you start from 1 and then multiply by the 10, and the power is 0. So that means nothing to multiply it by. So you just have that 1. And then 10 raised to the power of minus 3 is 1 divided by 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1 divided by 1000. And that gives you 0.001. 10 raised to the power of 5 is 1 divided by 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 into 5 places, which is 1 divided by 100,000, and that would give you 0.00001. And 10 raised to the power of 10 will give you 10 times 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 10, which will give you 10 billion. Okay, so you can see all these numbers in standard form. Just this power of 10 brings it down to just this little space here. Okay, so mark your work. Those you got right, those you didn't get right, do your corrections now. Okay, here's your second exercise, exercise number 2. Pause the video again and complete this one. It says write these numbers as powers of 10. So you need to concise these numbers in the power of 10. Okay, so 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. How many 10s are here? 4 10s. So that gives you 10,000, which would give you 10 raised to the power of 4. And then number 2 is 100,000. How many zeros do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that gives you 10 raised to the power of 5. So remember, the number of zeros tell you the number of tens, and that will tell you what the power is saying. The first one is 4 tens, which is the same as 4 zeros, and that gives you 10 to the power of 4. The second one is 5 zeros, which means the power says 5. Now, in the third one, how many zeros are here? No zero. So because there is no zero and we are writing in the power of 10, it's going to be 10 raised to the power of 0, because there is no 10 that you're multiplying by. That gives you 10 to the power of 0. Remember, we are starting from 1 and multiplying by the powers of 10. So in this case, it's just 1. There is no power of 10 to there is no 10 base. You start from 1 and multiply by the base in repeated multiplication. But because the power says 0, that means there is no base to multiply. You're not multiplying it by the base. So it's just that 1. Okay. And then number 4, 0.01. Remember, in the positive, the 0 comes after the 1. In the negative, the 0 comes before the 1. So that means this one has a negative power. How many zeros are there? 2. So your power is going to be -2. So you have 10 raised to the power of -2. This one, let's count the 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be 10 raised to the power of -6. So again, mark your work. Those you didn't get right, make your corrections. Now, what have you learned? We've come to the end of this lesson. That's all you need to know about powers of 10. So what have you learned? I'm sure you have done all the exercises that I've asked you to do, because I know that you will follow all the instructions that I have given you here. So having followed all that instruction, you have done all the exercises I've given you. You've done all the practice that I've given you. You've seen where you got them wrong and made your corrections. So now I want you to make me proud by completing the quiz for this lesson. The quiz for this lesson is called SF01 Powers of 10. Tell your parents to check our WhatsApp group. They will find the quiz there. Or they can log on to our Facebook page, Gleaming Moon School, and they will find both this video and the quiz on there. Or you can get in touch with the admin, and admin will send you the link to the quiz. Remember, if you didn't get it all correct, you can do the quiz again. If you're still confused, you can come back to this video, watch this video again and understand things. Go back to the quiz, complete the quiz again. Keep practicing until you become a master of mathematics. Don't forget, that is our goal, to make you a master of mathematics. I'll be looking out to see your quiz, because when you do the quiz, I will see that you have done the quiz. I will see the answers that you've put in. I will see your scores. And if you have tried it over and over and over, I will see that as well. So, and I will be proud of you when I see you mastering your mathematics. Our next lesson is going to be SFO2, whole numbers at decimal and decimals. That will be the next level from this, and until we build all the foundation before we now delve directly into standard form. So watch out for when the next video comes, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.